When my mother tried to take what was rightfully mine, I never imagined I'd be standing face to face with her, surrounded by my so-called family, all pressuring me to sign away my inheritance. But I had one surprise up my sleeve, something they never saw coming. This isn't just about money. It's about betrayal, justice, and the truth about what really went down between my parents. Let me take you back to when everything started to unravel. After I declined to share my inheritance with my mother, she called me to a family gathering. When I got there, they had attorneys waiting to pressure me into signing it away. But the moment they handed me the documents, I grinned and said, "Funny, I brought someone too." The door swung open, and I never imagined I'd be here, facing my own mom and the rest of my so-called family, watching them try to take what was rightfully mine. But there I was. Let me rewind a bit. My father was the only true parent I had growing up. He wasn't flawless, but he worked tirelessly, cared for me, and above all, he was just. My mother, though, was self-centered, cunning, and always played the victim card. They split when I was 12, and honestly, it was the best thing for him. I recall the day he broke the news about their separation. We were on the back porch, the summer warmth seeping into the wooden steps beneath us. Dad's hands were clasped between his knees, his gaze fixed on the ground. "Son," he said, his voice heavy with feeling, "your mom and I aren't going to live together anymore." I wasn't shocked. For months, I'd overheard their late-night arguments when they thought I was asleep, the yelling, the slamming doors, the icy silence at breakfast the next day. I'd seen Dad sleeping on the couch more times than I could count. "Is it about money?" I asked. Even at 12, I knew that was a big issue. Mom always craved more than what we had, more than Dad's contractor salary could provide. He looked at me, caught off guard. "You've been paying attention, haven't you?" He sighed, resting a hand on my shoulder. "It's more complicated than that. But yes, money's part of it. Your mom and I want different things from life." What he didn't say, but what I later understood, was that Mom wanted a lifestyle Dad's honest work couldn't deliver. He was a diligent man, honorable to a fault, but he wasn't going to make millions building homes. That wasn't enough for her. The divorce hit Dad hard, both financially and emotionally. Mom squeezed him for all she could, demanding alimony that strained his budget. But he never grumbled, not to me. He took on extra jobs, worked overtime, and ensured I never felt the burden. When I stayed with him on weekends, he was truly there for me in a way he couldn't be when they were together. We'd tinker on projects in his garage, go fishing at the lake, or just watch basketball games, content in our quiet moments. At Mom's place, it was a different story. 6 months after the divorce, she'd already met Richard, a wealthy real estate developer. Suddenly, she lived in a mansion, drove a fancy car, and took lavish trips Dad and I could only dream of. My half-siblings, Emily and Tyler, came along a few years later, becoming the center of her world. Perfect kids for her perfect new life. I watched Mom reshape herself to fit Richard's world. Her hair got blonder, her clothes pricier, her laugh more artificial. She urged me to call Richard Dad, and looked disappointed when I refused. Around him and his crowd, she acted like her life started when they met, as if her 15 years with my father were a mistake. "Sweetheart," she'd say when I mentioned an old memory, "that was a different chapter. We've moved forward." But Dad never asked me to erase her or pick sides. "She's still your mother," he'd say when I vented about her. "You can be upset, that's your right, but don't let that anger destroy you." That was Dad, always thinking of what was best for me, even if it meant being kind to someone who'd hurt him deeply. When Dad passed away last year from a sudden heart attack, it was devastating. One day we were planning a fishing trip to Canada, and the next I was choosing his coffin. It broke me. But what followed was almost worse. His will was crystal clear. Everything, house, savings, investments, went to me. He'd planned it that way because he knew Mom's character. He even warned me once, "She'll come for it, son. Be prepared." I thought I was ready, but I underestimated her ruthlessness. Barely a week after the funeral, Mom started calling. At first, it was fake concern. "How are you coping, honey?" Then it turned to guilt trips. "You know, I helped give you the life your father provided." Finally, it became outright demands. "You need to do what's right and share with your family." By family, she meant herself, her new husband, and my half-siblings who barely acknowledged Dad and never helped him, even when he was hospitalized. I kept saying no. That's when things turned nasty. She began showing up at my house, uninvited, pounding on the door. One evening stands out. I'd just gotten home from a grueling 10-hour shift, exhausted and craving peace. Instead, I found Mom on my doorstep, her Mercedes blocking my driveway. "We need to talk," she said, barging in before I could stop her. She wore a designer outfit, probably worth more than my rent, her hair and makeup perfect, but her eyes were cold and calculating. "Mom, I'm exhausted. Can this wait?" She ignored me, pacing my small living room like a predator. "This has dragged on long enough, don't you think? It's been 3 weeks since the funeral. Time to be sensible." "Sensible?" I snapped, my temper flaring. "Like you were sensible during the divorce, taking everything you could from Dad?" Her face tightened. "That's old news. This is about what's fair now. Fair would have been you visiting Dad in the hospital during his first heart scare. Fair would have been calling him on his birthday or showing him a shred of respect after all he did for you." She flinched slightly but recovered fast. "Your father made his choices, and I made mine. That's in the past. But this inheritance affects us all." "No," I said firmly. "It affects me. Dad left it to me because that's what he wanted. End of discussion." Her expression softened, but it was an act. "Honey, I'm worried about you. All that money at once? It's a big responsibility. You're young, you might make mistakes." I nearly laughed. "I'm 32, Mom, not a child." "You'll always be my baby," she said, reaching for my cheek. I stepped back, and her eyes flashed. Anger, frustration. I couldn't tell. "Think about what your father would want. He'd want you to share with your siblings." "No, he wouldn't," I said bluntly. "He'd want what he wrote in his will, for me to have what he worked for." Her face turned icy, all pretense gone. "You're stubborn, just like him." "Fine. Do what you want. But family is forever. You're choosing money over blood." "That's rich. Coming from you," I shot back, opening the door. "Wasn't that what you did when you left?" She stormed out without a word, but I knew it wasn't over. Mom never gave up easily, especially when money was at stake. When I stopped taking her calls, my half-sister left long, dramatic voicemails about how I was tearing the family apart. Then came the threats. Mom said she'd contest the will and drag it through court for years. I stood firm. Then, out of nowhere, I got an invitation to a family meeting. That should have been my first warning. My family never gathered unless drama was brewing, but something about it felt off. The wording was too formal. I almost skipped it, but my gut told me to see what they were planning. The invitation came on fancy stationery, like something for a wedding. "The Hanson family requests your presence for an important discussion," it read, with a date, time, and Mom's address. At the bottom, in smaller print, "Regarding the estate of William Jensen." Using Dad's full name so coldly made my blood boil. To them, he wasn't a person, just a pile of assets they felt entitled to. I called my best friend Mike that night. We'd been tight since college, and he'd been my rock through Dad's death. "They're up to something," I told him, pacing my apartment. "I can sense it." "Then don't go," Mike said. "You don't owe them anything. But if I don't show, I'll never know their game plan." Mike paused, then said, "Fine, go, but be ready, and maybe bring backup." That got me thinking. Dad had trusted his lawyer, Patricia Ramirez, a no-nonsense woman who'd handled his will and business affairs for years. I'd met her after his death, and she'd assured me the will was airtight. Mom had no claim. I called Patricia the next morning and explained. She listened quietly, then said, "This sounds like a setup. If you're going, I'm coming. But don't mention me beforehand." "You think they're that serious?" I asked, surprised by her quick offer. "Your father warned me about your mother," she replied. "He said she'd try something like this if he passed first. I promised him I'd protect his wishes." The day of the meeting, my stomach churned. Patricia and I planned for me to arrive on time, with her slipping in a few minutes later. Driving to Mom's house, memories flooded back. Awkward teenage holidays there. Richard's condescending remarks to Dad at school events, the constant comparisons to my half-siblings. I parked on the street for an easy escape, took a deep breath, and rang the doorbell. Walking into Mom's house, I knew I'd stepped into a trap. The living room was arranged like a courtroom. Mom sat in the center with her husband, looking smug. My half-siblings were there, too pleased with themselves. And two men in suits, lawyers. No one greeted me. One lawyer stood and said, "We're here to discuss the fair division of your father's assets." I nearly walked out. Fair division? He handed me a thick stack of papers, a revised agreement splitting the inheritance among all immediate family members. It demanded I sign over 75% of everything, house. Everything, house, savings, even Dad's car. I looked at Mom. "You've got to be joking." She sighed like I was a disobedient kid. "This is best for everyone. You don't need it all. Be reasonable." Reasonable? They wanted to strip away everything Dad worked for, and they thought I'd just agree. I took a breath, smiled, and said, "Funny, I brought someone too." The door opened, and in walked Patricia, Dad's lawyer, who drafted his will and knew every safeguard he'd put in place to stop this exact scheme. Mom's face paled. Her husband squirmed. Patricia didn't hesitate. She picked up their agreement, skimmed it, and said, "This is clever. Illegal, but clever." One of their lawyers cleared his throat. "We believe a redistribution." Patricia cut him off. "Stop right there. The will is bulletproof. Any attempt to challenge it will be thrown out of court. And if you try to pressure my client into signing away his inheritance, we'll file for fraud and extortion." Silence fell. Mom's voice, sharp and desperate, broke it. "You wouldn't take your own mother to court." I met her gaze. "Try me." No one moved. Mom, always quick with words, stared like she didn't know me. My half-sister, usually full of fake tears, looked like she wanted to disappear into the couch. My stepdad's knuckles were white on the armrest. Their lawyer tried again. "No need for hostility. We're seeking a mutual agreement." "Mutual?" I snapped, folding my arms. "A mutual agreement would have been talking to me before drafting a document to steal what's mine." Patricia closed their contract with a snap. "This wouldn't last 2 seconds in court. If you think my client's signing anything, you're delusional." Mom exhaled sharply. "This is absurd." I turned to her. "No. What's absurd is you trying to manipulate me into giving up Dad's legacy." Her voice grew vicious. "He didn't leave it to you because he loved you more. He just didn't think it through. You don't need it all. Your siblings deserve their share." I clenched my jaw. My siblings? The ones who barely acknowledged Dad's existence? Who never visited him in the hospital or called on his birthday? They deserve nothing. My half-brother, silent until now, snapped, "That's unfair. We weren't close because he never tried with us. He always favored you. I faced him. You mean the man you called a washed-up loser when he invited you for Christmas? That man?" He flushed but stayed quiet. My stepdad leaned forward. "Listen, don't call me son," I cut in. His face darkened, but he forced a smile. "We can argue or find a way to make this work for everyone." Patricia smirked. "We've found a way, following the will." She pulled a folder from her briefcase and slid it to their lawyer. "That's a full breakdown of the will, my client's rights, and a cease and desist order. If you keep harassing my client, we'll take legal action." Their lawyer's face grew grim as he read. Mom stood, nearly knocking over her chair. "You'd do this to your own family?" I looked at her. "You stopped being family when you tried to steal from me." Her fists clenched. "You think you're better than us, don't you?" Then she smiled, a cold, calculated smile. She sat, smoothed her blouse, and said, "Fine. We won't fight it. Too easy." Patricia sensed it too, her eyes narrowing. "Good. We're leaving." As I stepped out, Mom called, "Take care of that house, sweetheart." Accidents happen. My neck prickled. I didn't respond, just left. But her words haunted me as I drove home. Something was wrong, and I was about to learn how far she'd go. "The car," Patricia said, "that was a threat. You heard it, right?" I nodded, gripping the wheel. "She's never lost gracefully." "Document everything," Patricia advised. "Calls, texts, emails. Save them. If she shows up, record it. If anything happens to the house, report it. You think she'd actually do something? I asked, knowing the answer. Patricia's face was stern. Your father thought so? That's why he made the will airtight. He was protecting you, even after he was gone. That night, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by Dad's papers, insurance, bank statements, deeds. Everything was in order. I found a photo from my college graduation, Dad beaming in his best suit, arm around me. Mom hadn't shown, claiming Emily's dance recital was unmissable. I'll make you proud, Dad, I whispered. I won't let them take what you built. Mom's words, take care of that house, sweetheart, kept me awake. It wasn't just a comment. It was a warning. The next morning, I checked on Dad's house. I hadn't moved in yet. Too many memories, but I planned to eventually. It was his place, and letting someone else live there felt wrong. Pulling into the driveway, my stomach sank. The front door was wide open. I'd locked it, I was sure. Inside, the house was wrecked. Cushions slashed, drawers dumped, Dad's framed photo shattered. In the living room, scrawled in red spray paint, thief. I knew who did it. I called the police. While waiting, I surveyed the damage. Nothing was stolen, just destroyed. This wasn't a burglary. It was a message. Walking through the wreckage felt like losing Dad again. Every broken frame, slashed cushion, and scattered tool was an attack on his memory. In his bedroom, clothes were shredded. In the garage, his toolbox was emptied. Even the garden shed was hit. Soil bags ripped, pots smashed. The kitchen hurt most. The oak table where we'd shared countless meals was toppled, a leg broken. The fridge door hung open, family photos torn to bits on the floor. I found a fragment of my high school graduation photo, just Dad's smile and one eye. Tears came, not just for the destruction, but for the hatred behind it. When the police arrived, I explained. The threats, the inheritance fight, the meeting. They took notes but said without footage or witnesses, proof was tough. I filed a report anyway, wanting it documented. Then I did something Mom wouldn't expect. I installed high-definition motion-activated cameras with night vision at every entrance. Then I waited. They couldn't resist. After the break-in, I couldn't leave the house vulnerable. I took time off work, spent 3 days cleaning, repairing, and setting up the cameras. Mike helped, bringing tools and food, staying quiet when I zoned out. You should press charges, he said as we repainted over thief. With what proof? I replied. The cops said they can't do much. Then move, he suggested. Sell it. Take the money. Go where they can't find you. I shook my head. That's what they want. To make me run. This is Dad's house. He loved it. I'm not letting them win. Mike nodded. Then we fight. But smart. That night, alone on the repaired porch steps, I thought of Dad and our summer evenings there, sipping beer, talking about nothing and everything. This house was his life, his love. I wasn't letting go. I updated Patricia, who wasn't shocked but was concerned. This is escalating, she said. Consider a restraining order. Would it work? I asked. They'll deny everything. Maybe not yet, she said, but it builds a paper trail. When? I corrected. Not if. When? 4 nights later at 2:37 a.m., my phone pinged. Motion detected, backyard. I grabbed it and opened the live feed. There was Mom in black creeping with a flashlight. Her husband was with her holding a gasoline canister. My blood froze. I hit record and called 911. My mother and her husband are trying to burn down my house, I told the dispatcher. I watched, stunned, as Mom handed him a lighter. Then sirens blared. They panicked, Mom snatching the canister as they fled toward the street. Too late. The cops arrived first. Through the camera, I saw Mom screaming, claiming they were just checking the property. The gasoline canister told a different story. It was full. They were arrested on the spot. I drove over, arriving as they were loaded into squad cars. Mom saw me and shrieked, "You set me up! You did this!" I stared, jaw tight. "No, Mom, you did this to yourself." She lunged, but the cops restrained her. That was the last time I saw her in person. But it wasn't over. The real twist was coming. The cops took them to jail that night. I stood in the cold, watching red and blue lights flash on the pavement, hands shaking with rage. They'd planned to burn Dad's house. For spite? Greed? Whatever it was, I was done giving chances. Done hoping they'd do right. Done letting them treat me like a naive kid. The next days were a whirlwind of police reports, lawyer meetings, and court filings. Mom and her husband faced charges of attempted arson and conspiracy. My camera footage left their lawyers with little defense. Since Mom was already in financial trouble, the judge denied bail. She stayed in jail until trial. My half-siblings tried to backpedal. My sister left a tearful voicemail, claiming she didn't know Mom would go that far and begging to stay family. I didn't reply. My brother texted, saying he had no idea and hoped I was okay. I left him on red. They may not have planned the arson, but they were happy to pressure me for money. When things got real, they bailed. Not my problem. The trial took 6 months. Mom tried every excuse. She didn't know the canister had gasoline. She was just checking the house, then claimed I framed her. The security footage destroyed that lie, showing her with the flashlight directing her husband to pour gasoline. The jury took under 2 hours. Guilty. She got 10 years. Her husband 12, as he held the lighter. Their appeals failed. Justice was served. With them gone, I had peace. No more threats, calls, or stress. I repaired the house, replaced Dad's photos, and framed the cease and desist order as a reminder of their failure. I cut off my half-siblings. Last I heard, my sister was buried in debt, my brother jobless, blaming everyone else. Not my concern. They chose their path, like Mom did. They got what they deserved. I moved into Dad's house. Our house. It felt right, carrying on his legacy. I drink coffee on the porch where we used to sit, work in his garage, finishing his projects. It's not the life I planned, but it's the one I'm building, memory by memory. I wonder sometimes what would have happened if Mom had been decent, respected Dad's wishes, acted like family instead of a vulture. But Dad always said, "You can't control others, son, only how you respond." I think I responded as he'd have wanted, standing firm, protecting his legacy, not letting bitterness consume me like it did her. Patricia checks in occasionally. "Your father would be proud," she said last time. I believe her. I invested most of the inheritance, as Dad would have. Some went to charities he cared about. The rest is for the future, maybe a family of my own, built on love and respect, not greed. That's Dad's true legacy, not money or the house, but living with integrity, especially when it's tough. That's worth more than anything Mom tried to take. If you like this story, don't forget to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories.